The Build Your Own Neverland tag. If you could build your own fantasy Neverland island and populate it with fictional characters, who would you choose and why? So I was tagged by the archive, thank you very much, link to his channel down in the description. And this was harder than I thought it would be, because a lot of times I found that I was torn between characters that I just could not choose. But I did, and we're gonna get right into it. So the first question I want to answer is The Lost Boys. Who is your crew and why? So I had to limit myself to 6 characters. This was a self-imposed limit because in the movie Peter Pan, there are only 6 Lost Boys. And I was like, I could just keep filling this treehouse with all of my favorite fantasy characters and fictional characters in general, but that's not quite a crew. That's more like a militia of fantasy protagonists. So we're going to limit to 6. And the 6 I chose were 3 from Dumbledore's army. So I had Luna, Neville, and Ginny from the Harry Potter series because they just seem like so much fun to hang out with. I would love to spend time with them. And I feel like any hijinks we get up to, any adventures we go on are guaranteed to be fresh and fun and quirky. So those 3 definitely. And then the other 3 I picked were from the Percy Jackson series. I chose Percy Jackson himself, Annabeth Chase, and Grover. Again, I just think they're so funny. I think there would be so much fun to hang around with. They're very cool, and I think their power set would come in quite handy against my answer for number 2, the Jolly Roger. Who is your villain and why? I chose Girahim from the Legend of Zelda series because, I know I'm breaking the rules a little bit, they're not all from books, most of them are, but I picked Girahim because I couldn't resist the idea of this flamboyant demon lord as a swashbuckling pirate captain, you know, sailing around Neverland trying to revive the Demon King demise. I thought that he would be a lot of fun as the villain, yet still very threatening because Girahim doesn't mess around, and I think there would be a cool plot with him, you know, trying to revive the Demon King, and then us trying to run around Neverland trying to stop him. Like, that would be pretty cool. So I'm going to go with Girahim. A close runner-up, also from the Legend of Zelda series, would be Vadi the Wind Mage, because I like the idea of a wind mage being in charge of his own ship. Like, he can blow up the own sails, you know, he could control how it goes. I think that would lead to some pretty cool naval battles, but I am going to have to go with Girahim. Mermaid's Lagoon. Who are the lovely ladies hanging out by your lagoon and why? So this is going to be a bit of a weird answer, but I like seeing couples being happy together, you know, so I'm going to pick some of my favorite couples from fiction that I've run across. So I'm going to go Patroclus and Achilles are going to be chilling happily and away from tragedy in Mermaid Lagoon. Saoirse and Red from the Daughter of the Forest series by Juliette Marlier. I'm not sure if I say that name, so we're just going to cut it, Daughter of the Forest. And Ista and Ilvin from the Paladin of Souls, which is part of the Curse of Chalion series that I really enjoyed. And I just want to see these two kind of like continue their story on Neverland. I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know. I like the idea of these 3 couples interacting, and then all their weird different philosophies banging up together. I think that would be pretty cool. The Indian Encampment. Who are your allies? So this was really difficult. You know, I thought of everything from Bridge 4, from the Stormlight Archives, to all of Dumbledore's army from Harry Potter, but I eventually settled on the fairies in Haven from the Artemis Fowl series. I think I really love all the disparate personalities. I love the quirky cultures going on. I like the magic systems. I like their focus on technology. It provides an interesting counterpoint to Dumbledore's army and to Girahim himself, while also acknowledging that in the Legend of Zelda series, there's always like ancient tech going around. So I think the fairies from Artemis Fowl would work with that pretty well. And I just really like the characters that we meet there. So I like the idea of going to Haven with my people, with my crew, and then saying, hey, fairies from Artemis Fowl, like, help us against Girahim, you know? I think that would be pretty sweet. Next is Skull Rock. What is the scariest place on your island? So again, I had to do a bit of thinking. There are a number of scary places in fantasy fiction. You know, you have Mordor from The Lord of the Rings. You have the Blight from the Wheel of Time. And while those are scary, I think for me, the place I'm going to have to put is the Shadow Temple from Ocarina of Time and the Bottom of the Well also from Ocarina of Time. And I picked those because, in case you're not familiar, they are these kind of like graveyard torture dungeons. Well, the Shadow Temple is a graveyard slash torture chamber that the royal family used to cover up the sins of the nation's past. And when you go in there, it's full of spooky music, it's full of zombies, re-deads, it's full of endless abysses and torture rooms. And there's even like this river Styx you have to ride into the underworld. It's all very scary. Plus there's like hands that drop from the ceiling and grab you, so that's pretty spooky. And then the bottom of the well itself, you know, you're just beneath this nice innocent town, and then there's supposed to be this old rich person who used to live here who dabbled in dark magic, and it is also full of torture rooms. And then there's this monster that rises up from the ground and grabs you with all these hands, and it just pulls you down, and it's just like, whoa, very not cool, very unfriendly place. So I think that would be my my Skull Rock. That would be the spooky place that me and my crew would have to go into. And the last question, Pixie Hollow. Who are your magical helpers? And it's a little silly. I'm going to pick the Great Fairies from the Legend of Zelda series, because I think the thought of them in the same place as the fairies from Artemis Fowl would be so funny. I think that the fairies from Artemis Fowl would have such this like knee-jerk reaction against the Great Fairies. They've rebelled against this perception of these humans' perception of them for so long, and then for the Great Fairies to actually be there, it's just like, ugh. And I like the juxtaposition of the magic of the Great Fairies and then this like techno magic. Also, I think that the soft magic, the boons that the Great Fairies bless people with, I think that would go really well with my crew, especially with the people from Camp Half-Blood, Annabeth, Percy, and Grover. I think that their sort of experiences and their magic system would gel really well with the Great Fairies' gifts. So I think that the Great Fairies work really well with everything else I've got going on my island. So I'm gonna stick with that. So that was it for my Build Your Own Neverland tag. I hope you do this yourself, because this was a lot of fun to think about and like build my own little island of like who would fight against who would be my allies, who would be my friends, who do I want sheltered and just protected and just, you live your little magical fantasy kind of thing. It was a lot of fun. If you want to do this, I hereby tag anybody who wants to do it. Specifically, I would like to tag Lost in Translation and Kristen and her books. I think you guys might enjoy this tag. And that's going to be it for now. Remember that every day is a gift, and I hope you find something in your day that helps you smile. And thanks again to the archive for tagging me in this really fun tag. I really enjoyed myself. Have a good one, everybody.